Off top, steel is more elastic than rubber. For real. Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show. We have a very, very exciting show today because it's just me and my man Charlie. I love when me and Charlie hang out. We're going to go through all of the major contenders in the NFL. They're going to be a little negative today. We're going Achilles heels of the major contenders.
Does it ever grind your gears when people say Achilles?
Why? Achilles? You like, I mean.
Achilles.
Yeah, it's Achilles.
It's Achilles.
You're a is that the only word, or are there other ones that you just like are irked by the way that people pronounce things?
I'm irked by many words.
I got to tell you this. So I've used this a number of times. You might have heard me say this before. If you can correct me, then you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
One of my teammates and a friend of mine, Fabian Washington, he's number one draft pick the year I came out. He was the first round draft pick, cornerback. He ran a ridiculous 40 time, 4.2 back then. But he's from Florida. He played in Nebraska. And I would like mock him, make fun of him. And I generally make fun of when you're around football, it's a lot of people myself, generally make fun of anybody who messed up words. One time he hit me with this thing that made me feel dumb, so I stopped making fun of people with accents was, if you correct me, then you know what I'm saying. Which then just like, you took all the fun out of it. You're like, you're right. I do know what you're saying. I'm just being a So now I just like, when people mess up words, I just let it ride.
For the record, you did not mess up that word. It just irks me when other people do.
Oh, yeah, I know. I did mess it up. And I don't care if it irks you.
Well,
Achilles. Now I'm doing Achilles from here on out.
Achilles. Did you ever see that Price is Right clip where the guy, it was a college Price is Right? And the kid solved the puzzle really early and called him Achilles.
I have seen that.
And Pat Sajak was like, can't give it to you, buddy.
Can't give it to him if he goes Achilles. So let's do these Achilles heels.
Okay.
Top to bottom. I think we got to go in order of the most contender of contenders, and the Kansas City Chiefs are at the top of the list.
Yes.
They are on a path to a three-peat, making NFL history. What would go wrong to make them come up a little bit short of their championship? Or I wouldn't even say come short of the championship. I think have a disappointing season would be the way to put it.
So there's going to be, as we go through these contenders, what would constitute a disappointing season is different for a lot of these teams. And the Chiefs are in a rare enough air where, they're going for a three-peat. They have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and they won last year when their roster seemed more barren than it had in years past. Right. So when you look at this, what's the first thing that jumps out?
Well, I think the first thing that jumps out is that we are getting all hyped up about the fastest man on earth, Xavier Worthy. Not on earth, because we did just have the Olympics. Fastest man in NFL history, Xavier Worthy, taking over the receiver spot and also adding Hollywood Brown. We believe that their defense was among the best in the league last year. We all assume that their defense is going to take a little bit of step back because they just can't perform at that high level. They lost L'Jarius Sneed, which is a great corner who moved on to the Titans, or I guess they traded him away. They didn't just lose him.
Yeah.
And the expectation is you give Patrick Mahomes a weapon like Xavier Worthy, in Hollywood on the other side, and Rashee Rice, and Travis Kelce, Pacheco, and the improvements at the tackle, although it's not great, but they do have improvements at the tackle. The expectation is
Suamatia.
Yeah, Suamatia is the presumed improvement at left tackle. The expectation is this offense is going to get back to where it belongs. And I think that's where we come up short, is Hollywood's already hurt. Rashee Rice came on last year, but even when he was at his best, this offense still was a major question mark. I think a lot of what we've done, and there's two conversations to be had. The Chiefs' playoff run last year was impressive for what it was. But let's go back and look at that. Like, none of us thought they were going to win the Super Bowl last year. And then each of those playoff games didn't feel like, whoa, the Chiefs sure got a handle on this thing. So if they return,
do you want to go through these and remind people about these Chiefs?
I think we have. We have to, because I am guilty of it also, because I remember last season going around and trumpeting how Patrick Mahomes, he added another thing to his game. Now he can manage games. And looking back on it, was like, we celebrated Patrick Mahomes becoming a game manager. And yeah, I think it's fair, because I think we all hyped it up so much.
In your head, you were doing the Hangover meme of all the math being like, he's playing like young Tom Brady. But wait, I also criticized young Tom Brady for being a game manager. So now I have to.
But he did it in reverse. Somehow it makes it more impressive. But when I'm getting ready for this season and looking back at last year, I think we should go through these games, because that's kind of when I had the realization that before the playoffs, I had no faith. Some faith, but I had little faith in this Chiefs team. And then they won the Super Bowl, so you have to have faith in them. But at no point in the playoffs did their offense do anything that was like, yeah, we got control of this thing. Go through the games for me.
Okay, the first one was the Dolphins game.
Oh, yeah, that was Patrick Mahomes' helmet cracked.
Yeah, it was so cold.
That wasn't even a real football game, but all right, there was no offensive explosion in that.
It was so cold, and the Dolphins are, would you say it's fair to say that they were not in a good place by the end of the season, and they're not built for that type of weather?
Yeah, the Dolphins were destroyed defensively by injuries, if I remember correctly.
They just had major injury after major injury after major injury. And that was like, I think Jalen Phillips got hurt right at the end of this, at the end of season 2, and that decimated their pass rush amongst the other things that had gone wrong. So they get past the Dolphins game. Showdown. Josh Allen and the Bills, the game we remember, where Patrick Mahomes outdueled Josh Allen, and Josh Allen was too aggressive driving the ball down the field rather than settling for a field goal that then missed. And Steph Diggs dropped a couple passes too and wasn't trustworthy despite being open on that last drive. Chiefs offense didn't totally cook that game, even though Patrick Mahomes was perfect in all of the big moments.
And then there's the championship game, the Ravens game that I went to.
That was crazy because, like, thinking about that, like the Chiefs scored early and were okay on offense in the first half, and then really parked the bus in a way that they is very un-Chiefs-like and made it feel like they understood they were not the better team on paper that week.
Then they had one play action deep shot, if I remember, to MVS, like when they needed it, and it felt like they were like, all right,
who caught
guys.
The ball?
Yeah, like, all right, guys, we are not going to give the Ravens a chance for a sack fumble, an interception, a turnover, anything. We know that we're good at defense. We're not great on offense. We're going to make them make us make a play. The Ravens never did. The one time they needed to make a play, they made a play. Then you get to the Super Bowl where
the Chiefs had 6 points on their first 9 drives. Right. That is an average NFL game. You have 11 drives. Obviously, there were more possessions in that game, and everything swung with the Dre Greenlaw injury that unlocked Travis Kelce in the second half. But before Patrick Mahomes became like Thanos of taking everything, there were legitimate struggles where they could have been down by a lot. You forget there was a Christian McCaffrey fumble early in that game when the 49ers were driving. Yeah, they got by on guile.
I am certainly not going to underestimate the value of their championship. You can't go back and say they don't deserve it or anything that. Yeah. I think I don't want to get misconstrued, but I do believe that them winning made us think that they are better than they actually were. And we have to understand that their defense is going to take a step back. If their offense, if Xavier Worthy, which most receivers, even first-round receivers, I'd say it's like a coin toss. I don't know how great they are. Historically, you haven't been able, we always assume because Patrick Mahomes is so good, you'll be able to plug in anybody and you'll get the best version of them. Historically, that hasn't really worked out. There have been players that you plug in there that work. Most of them you plug in there haven't had the seasons you expected. So there's a possibility that Xavier Worthy does not work out there. There's a possibility that Hollywood already with the clavicle injury could have issues this season. And then what they end up with offensively is the same thing they had personnel-wise last year, which is Pacheco, Rice, and Kelce. And with the defense taking a step back, even if their defense is just as good as they were last year, we're looking at them the same as we did last year, right? Which is no one thought they were going to win this. Well, I can't say no one. Most of us thought that no one thought they were the best team in the AFC or in the NFL. Even if people thought they were going to win, no one thought they were the best team.
We were all cowards and I can't bet against Patrick Mahomes.
We were right to
no, totally. And that was the right thing. I mean, he's ridiculous. Oh, do you want some breaking news right now?
Oh, we got some breaking news.
We're recording this on Thursday night.
Okay. What broke?
Brandon Ayuk just signed a 4-year, $120 million deal with the 49ers.
Yay! Congratulations to Brandon Ayuk. I love when guys get paid. That really changes.
It changes our Achilles heel about this.
I mean, maybe it does. I guess it changes our. I'm glad that broke down before we recorded that.
Yeah.
I guess we should move on to them unless you got anything else on the Chiefs.
No, the only thing I was going to say is my Achilles heel for them is actually just like the obvious thing that you could say for most teams, but theirs is slightly more age-related with their superstars, which is just that I think we've penciled in Kelce and Chris Jones to be excellent for the entirety of the season and the postseason run, and at some point there will be an inevitable decline in their production. And I think if you looked at a disappointing season for them results-wise in the regular season, most likely it's going to come from expecting superstar production when it might dip a tiny bit.
Yeah, I think that we're getting to the stage in Kelsey's career, at least. I don't know if we're there for Chris Jones
No,
yet.
we aren't there yet.
Right, but I mean, it's going to happen at some point, and that defense lives and dies on Chris Jones. His ability, him and McDuffie's flexibility and Chris Jones's just utter dominance would allow Spagnuolo to call the creative defenses, and intelligence generally of their team allows him to call the creative defenses that he does.
That's the thing that one of my major takeaways from the Chiefs playoff run was just how dominant Chris Jones is.
A monster.
And that's something that doesn't shine through when you're watching regular season Chiefs football as much. But it's like every big play, he seemed to be so disruptive.
Yeah, and Kelsey is very much relying on his athleticism. He's approaching a point in his career where they're going to park him until the playoffs.
Do you think he's going to start running like Jason Witten when he only ran in right angles?
No.
It's like he's straight, stop, right, stop, left.
All right, let's move on to our next Achilles heel. Speaking of Achilles heels, you're hiding yours today. What the hell? You know, the people love them legs. Why you...
You can't. I'm Matumbo finger wagging.
No,
because Domonique. Here's what he thinks. He thinks that he was able to bully me into pants.
Did not. I don't think that.
He thinks that him and Marcus Spears were able to bully me into pants, into wearing pants that have a belt. First of all, I'd like you to know, elastic waistband on these linen pants, no belt.
So you got on a collar and what looked like khakis, but you couldn't fully give in to dressing like a grown up. You still got a drawstring.
Drawstring.
That's a real fat man move. Okay. I love it.
Wecollars are for dogs.
Okay.
I hate that I have buttons on.
So
it's sickening to me.
Okay. So
Dominique's wearing compression shorts. He's dressed for the combine.
I mean, it's got him dressed for my brightest days. That was a great day in Domonique Foxworth history. I ate the combine. But anyway, so we had a show. Our very last taping. You got roasted by me and Marcus Spears about your shoes all the way up to your knees and your very pale legs being out. The next show, you're in pants. What is one to deduce other than you succumb to the pressure?
I went to a meeting.
A meeting?
A meeting.
A pants meeting? A white calf meeting? What did
you I went to a tan line. No, I went to an actual work meeting.
Okay.
And in said in-person work meeting, actually, it was right after the taping with Marcus. No one had seen the episode. A director who had worked with ESPN was like, "You should really put on some pants." He said it was like, "I think it'd be good for you."
I'm sorry. You knew Marcus and I were just joking.
I mean, look,
serious, but we just joking.
Accountability is the rule of the locker room on this show. Hand up, a guy had to put on some pants.
Well, you look great in pants.
I'll wear a belt sometime.
Nah, you don't have to wear a belt. You're good. I think you pulled it off. If you can trick them, trick them. I don't wear pants when I'm doing like TV from home.
Yeah.
I just give them top up.
Of course.
Yeah, everything else below.
Everything else below. Do you want to talk about the 49ers?
I do want to talk about the 49ers. As you mentioned, they just signed Brandon Ayuk, which was high on the list of potential Achilles heels. But I think we were going to hit him with I guess it's not really the curveball, but people who follow the 49ers know that the real key to that offense is Trent Williams.
Yeah.
He still hasn't signed. Maybe they'll figure that deal out in the next 24 hours, which would be not fun for those of you listening. But if they haven't, Trent Williams is the straw that stirs that drink, which is weird to say about a left tackle. Over the time that he's been there, their offense with and without them has been decidedly different. I think the only other time I remember a player having this impact was Debo. When Debo went out last year, their offense fell off a cliff, which kind of surprised me because I felt like he was someone that they could build without. So it feels like this is a bit of a really delicate machine.
It's so complicated, though. Obviously, the Trent Williams stuff is huge. I mean, first of all, when you see him pull,
oh gosh,
it is awesome.
You remember when they put him in motion like 2 years ago and just he ran down and it was no, like, we're not going to try to fool you. Obviously, we're running Trent Williams in motion to get him ahead of steam, and we're going to run behind him. Somebody get in front of that.
I know, blah, 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 the jacked up segment, blah, blah, blah. We can't do that. Head trauma, blah, 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 blah. It was awesome seeing Trent Williams go downhill and throw people out of the club. I know you think the same way that you did.
Hold on. But I absolutely feel the same way about Trent Williams going to hell and throwing people out the club. Yeah.
You just put that clip on repeat and have it just like the primetime music, and I'd be very happy. But what I was going to say, what's complicated about the Trent and Debo piece about it last year obviously, to your point that you were making, that Purdy played significantly worse and the offense was worse when Trent Williams wasn't out there. With Williams healthy, 28 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Without, 3 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That's also when he kept on getting concussed and Kyle Shanahan kept on playing him, and all the football nerds kept on being like, let's put in Sam Darnold to show you how much Brock Purdy actually sucks. And he just kept playing through it. So I think it's a bit of a selected sample when it's that small.
That's fair. And we talked about how delicate this machine is and how losing Debo impacted that offense. There's another piece that I think that they don't have an answer for, that is not likely to be as productive as he has been. And that's Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
He's kind of, I certainly don't want to call him injury prone, but like any back who gets the workload that Christian has, like every year or so, couple of years, he's going to miss some games. He didn't last year. And he had a tremendous amount of workload, reasonable to consider him an MVP caliber season. And he's been doing it for a while. And he's getting up there in years as far as a running back is concerned. And even for him, when he was young, he would get nicked up and miss some games here or there. So that's another kind of potential Achilles heel for them, is being so dependent on such a special player that's unlikely. And he's already hurt. Like, he already has a calf injury.
So I'm really wondering about how you feel about the Ayuk deal, who's basically, all the statistics show that he's one of the best receivers in the NFL at creating separation. He's really been their number one receiver. He is more stable than Debo in his production.
Yeah.
But the vibes and the Super Bowl hangover were what I was going to pick as their Achilles heel, just because, like, I don't know how many times Kyle can go through this, how sad he must be, and how the way that they lost that Super Bowl, the way they got just sort of torched for the decision making down the stretch, where I think mentally that's a huge hurdle to come back from. We saw John Lynch in his press conference be really pissed about everything that's happening with Ayuk. Well, now Ayuk is back, and I wonder if this is like a snowball effect that sort of makes the mental aspect I was talking about moot. If people will be happy, they'll get deals, they'll be happy, they'll want to play, they'll want to run this back and try and win right now.
Yeah, I think it helps. I think they'll be happy, but I do think there's still one guy out that's not back and is not happy, and he's the best player on their offense. And I mean, I guess you could
best
argue
player on the team.
Yeah, you could argue between him, Trent, and Christian.
Bosa too.
Yeah, they're very good, but I think the difference between Trent Williams in that offense and not in that offense is noticeable with their play calling and decision making. The one thing I would say about Ayuk, which is, it's a weird thing to say, if you break down those 3 people whose name we've been saying over and over again, of those 3 people, Christian, Trent, and Ayuk, the one that I would feel most comfortable about working around or replacing would be Ayuk.
Yeah.
Which, like, Christian's not gone, but he's already coming in with a calf injury. And that doesn't seem like something that's just going to go away for a running back.
Yeah. It's just crazy that, I mean, he's such a maniac. He's going to play through it, like from week 1, when, like, you know that, look, Kyle Shanahan's getting you 6 yards a carry no matter who's back there in week 1 and week 2. Do you think any part of Brandon Ayuk, when it became like nut crunching time to get this deal done, was sort of like, well, shit, I hope the offense doesn't look really good without me for a couple weeks, because knowing the way that Kyle Shanahan can call up plays, like, that's like distinctly possible. I know Parasol's already hurt, but, you know, there's talent.
Yeah, I mean, it would make him probably feel less valuable to that specific team.
Yeah.
But the way that people were talking to Ayuk was not about his production, even though his production was pretty good. Like, the reason why people loved Ayuk was because of, like, separation numbers and stuff like that. So unless Ricky Pearsall or someone else was in there getting those same separation numbers, which I guess is distinctly possible if we are going to chalk it all up to the Shanahan-style offense, then I think his value stays the same, but it still hurts. It sucks.
I don't know why. I just find it so funny that Ricky Pearsall and Brandon Ayuk and Jaden Daniels were all teammates at Arizona State before the pandemic.
Life before the pandemic thing.
So it's just like, it was 5 years ago. You guys are all college teammates. Brandon Ayuk's made like 3 All-Pro teams. You guys are rookies.
That's nuts. Yeah.
Okay, so we went through the 2 Super Bowl teams.
Those age things always catch me. I saw something
Yeah.
online that said that Gronk is 35 and Kelsey's 34.
Yeah.
Which blew my mind. Anyway, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Kyle Pitts is younger than Penix Jr. and Jaden Daniels. And
we must have got the same Instagram feed fed to us.
So we went through the 2 Super Bowl teams.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to roll through? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other AFC teams, and then 4 other NFC teams. Let's do AFC first?
Let's go fast. Yeah.
Okay. The Bills.
All right, the Bills, I think the Achilles heel for the Bills is just the fact that they aren't actually that good right now, but it's obvious. It's their team was largely improved by the addition of a very good receiver. They don't have a very good receiver right now. Maybe Keon Coleman is that, but
we're all rooting for it. He's awesome.
He's a great, and Khalil Shakir maybe gets better, but it's understanding that this offense is going to be a run-centric offense with 2 tight ends, and maybe that doesn't work out how you planned. When the biggest asset, I guess the running ability is the biggest asset of the quarterback, but also kind of gunslinging is this thing. And when you try to turn him into something different, maybe it doesn't work out great for Josh Allen. I know the second half of the year, his numbers didn't drastically improve in the way that I expected when they switched coordinators, but the team started to win more. So it's that combined with Milano being out on the defense and general turnover on the defense. Maybe it won't be as good as we expect. So I think this team, the expectations are only high because they have the quarterback. The expectations aren't that high. I could see. Yeah, the only way that they go under those expectations would be the failure of the offense to be effective.
Yeah, there's a lot of mixed takes on this team because some people don't think they're the best team in the division, whether it's the Jets or the Dolphins, but really the Jets. Did you see the ESPN poll that had Josh Allen's the most overrated quarterback in football, voted by his peers?
I did see that. I hate it.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously players have some level of bias. I think.
Do you feel partially responsible for this?
No, I don't feel at all responsible for this. I think that Josh Allen's. It's so subjective. And so does Josh Allen get talked about a lot?
Yeah.
And celebrated often? Yes. So I think when you say the most overrated player, you're looking for someone who gets celebrated a lot, but doesn't have rings, essentially, or doesn't have hardware. And I think that's how you end up on Josh Allen. I think it's ridiculous because overrated feels like a negative, which I guess it is a negative.
It's definitely negative.
I mean, what I'm saying is it could be like a statement of fact is that we treat him like he's a 10 when he's actually an 8. Which I don't think that anyone in the league thinks he's bad.
Yeah.
He's not that type of overrated. But I do think that it's probably fair for them to come to that estimation because we talk about him like Patrick Mahomes. Or not like Patrick Mahomes, but we talk about him in that conversation, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're saying is like, you don't have an MVP. You don't have a Super Bowl. You haven't even been to a Super Bowl. And I guess that's how you end up there. I mean, the real thing that matters is he was the voted the highest trash talker, which I'm sure he loves.
He loved that. He tweeted me, "Let's go." I mean, it's interesting. I mean, like, I think he's like the second best quarterback in the NFL, him or Burrow, and like, it's hard to. I guess it's only overrated if it's in the conversation with Mahomes. So I think it's like, I rate him above everyone else.
Yeah. I mean, what rating are you talking about? That's one of those great first take words that it just sets it up so that you can definitely have a debate no matter what, because it's kind of all subjective. But it has something to do, probably is connected to the fact that he's the highest rated trash talker.
Yeah.
It probably pisses off a lot of people and they're like, they can't wait to take him down a notch.
Definitely. And he's a big boy. He's probably really annoying to play against.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
All right, let's go to the other team, the AFC, the Jets.
Yeah, this is obvious, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what goes wrong is Aaron Rodgers isn't as good as we remember. But the problem with that is Aaron Rodgers could be much worse than Aaron Rodgers at his peak. And if this defense shows up again, this team is still pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And like generally they're relying on old tackles and an old quarterback who seems to sometimes go off the deep end.
Oh, dude, he does crazy.
Yeah.
The team has Stockholm syndrome though. Yeah. Like, it's like the way that they like,
of course they do.
have reverence for him. Like,
well, I don't know if
they're held hostage by this lunatic.
Okay, I think they
definition Stockholm syndrome. Their hopes, their dreams, their wishes, their well-being.
Yeah, I guess this is the definition of Stockholm syndrome. But you can get to Stockholm syndrome by the hostage holder actually being likable. Like I think the players aren't lying about what has he done to make the people on the team not like him. That's my thing. It's like, I can understand why fans would be annoyed with him.
Threatened to come back so that they didn't make a move at quarterback and then tank their whole season and then see the life slowly drain out of their defensive players' eyes when they had an all-time great defense last year.
Okay, they got Stockholm Syndrome. All right, it's fine. You win. Stockholm
the guy
Syndrome.
was almost RFK Jr.'s vice president. Like, we forgot about this.
That was not
so
a
much
thing.
crazy.
It was, yeah, gosh, that was something we talked about, but no one took it seriously, which doesn't mean that it wasn't annoying as hell. Because it was.
I mean, he leaned into it.
Yeah, all right. I mean, there's nothing else because this is actually when you
the team
look at
rules. I think
the
they're
team,
really good.
Yeah, the team is really talented. Like, we don't even. It takes us like 4 players before we even get to Breece Hall, who's like a potential best back in the league type of player when he's healthy and playing well, and he will be this season, it seems. And they drafted a tackle, even if one of their 2 older tackles goes down. Like, this team is set up good, and then the defense is the defense.
Yeah.
They seem to be good. So it's a really short conversation on the Jets. The question is, like, Aaron Rodgers, unless he decides that he's going to make a last-second run for presidency or something, I think this team's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think they're going to be really good. I mean, like, that defense is so cool because it's like a true 3-level defense.
Yeah.
Like, they have guys everywhere who are people you want to see make plays.
Yeah. Sauce might be the best corner in the league, man.
Sauce is ridiculous. Quinnen and Quincy are both ridiculous. Like, they're a sick team. All right, let's go to the AFC North.
Okay.
And we'll roll through these quick. Ravens.
Their O-line stinks. That's the big issue for them. And then it's the defense being as productive as it was last year. Losing Mike McDonald.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense was great last year. I don't think the change at linebacker, I really like Simpson. I think Simpson is going to be as good, or like, he's more athletic than Patrick Queen.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they ask out of that position. They still have Kyle Hamilton. They drafted Wiggins to add to their corner. Like, their secondary is going to be incredible. I think their defense is still going to be really good. We didn't even get to Matabike. Like, I'm not worried about the defense. Even losing Mike McDonald, I'm not worried about the defense. The question is, how will that O-line hold up? So I think if you want to be quick on this Ravens topic, I think that's the concerning part.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, I kind of think the Ravens are being undervalued and underrated already going into this season. And I say that as being like, as someone who's been critical of like Lamar's playoff performances, like, that team is awesome. Like, I still think back to last year and think they were the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
I would be stunned if they were an awesome regular season team and probably a very good playoff team again. Yeah. I guess if you were to say what could constitute a disappointing season, a lot of it might be out of their control. It might be a stronger division. A stronger and healthier division where there's decent play and just makes things more difficult, because they were a buzzsaw last year.
Their point differential was absurd.
Yeah.
They were dominating people. I think that's we can be quick on this one, because I do think the offensive line, if you're looking internally for issues that they may have, and they tragically lost their offensive line coach, and the talent offensive line is worse. So what'll hold this team back, I think, is the time it'll take for them to figure out their issues on the O-line. But Lamar and then Derrick Henry kind of makes O-line less relevant, but we'll see.
I mean, it's just such a ridiculous division. Yeah. Pittsburgh is going to be bad, but Tomlin always makes them decent. The Bengals, who are up next, and they're a contender. In Cleveland had one of the best defenses ever for half that season. Pittsburgh, though, as a city.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we love it.
Don't get the Steelers fans, man.
I know.
They already hate me because I'm from Baltimore, just the general hate. But yeah, I think Baltimore and Pittsburgh are similar cities.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I get mad because I'm in D.C., so like I live in D.C., when I tell people in D.C. I'm from Baltimore, they like talk about Baltimore like Baltimore's in competition with D.C., and I always tell them, no, Baltimore's an awesome Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It's not a D.C. Like, we're not even the same type of city. Like, D.C. is like a New York, and Baltimore is like, because D.C. is like a major city. Like, everyone around the world knows D.C. If you go to like Sweden, you say Baltimore, they're not going to know like.
I've seen The Wire.
Exactly. Which The Wire reminds you much more of Pittsburgh than it does.
Yeah.
Especially that dock season.
The
dock season.
Baltimore. It's like Baltimore, Philly, Pittsburgh all have like there's a grit factor.
Yeah.
Like I know you're tougher than me.
Is Philly the best of those three? Like
I think so.
Yeah. It's like, of that kind of city, it's very much like, and it has an Ohio feel to me.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Cincinnati, Cleveland all fall in there too.
I mean,
Detroit.
I'm always stunned. My mom's family's from Pittsburgh. I'm always stunned how close it is to Ohio.
Yeah.
Like, is this the East Coast? Are we in the Midwest? I don't know. What
You're definitely the Midwest of Pittsburgh. Anyway, what are we talking about?
Bengals. Achilles heel.
Yeah, that's easy. It's Joe Burrow has rare injury, and he's always injured. Not always injured, but injured more than most high-level quarterbacks, and right now he has an injury that no other quarterback has had. We don't know how well he's going to bounce back from that. I think that's the first Achilles heel. And the other one might surprise some people, is the defense. Because, we love Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator, but the defense was garbage last year.
Yeah.
They couldn't stop the run, and there's not they were like 20th, 25th. They were like high. I don't remember the exact efficiency rating, but they were really bad. And there was not an addition that made me confident that this defense will be much better. Maybe it's just having Joe Burrow back will give them some faith, but they couldn't stop the run. Just a garbage unit.
Yeah, I think the Chase situation needs to get settled too.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase needs a contract. He has not been practicing. To me, it's like Tyreek, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase, and those are like the three receivers that are in a huge separation above everyone else, and like game breakers in your offense can be built around those guys, and like they have to figure that out. Like, that's not disrespect to the Ayuks or the CD Lambs of this world. It's like this level of player is very rare and special, and to me that's as big of an Achilles heel as the Burrow one. Although by the time, who knows, now that the Ayuk deal is set, by the time you listen to this, Chase could have signed and I'll sound like an idiot.
Yeah, well, that's not going to change the fact that
we're covered for it. So
yeah. That's not going to change the fact that the wrist is still an issue and that defense still has trouble. Save spot on that receiver list for Marvin Harrison Jr., please.
Yes.
He hasn't done it yet, but I have a feeling that he's going to be one of them dudes real soon.
I think it's so funny that the reports out of camp are that it's actually been boring because he's getting so open. Yeah. His catches aren't spectacular.
He's going to make Kyler Murray an MVP nominee.
Last one in the AFC, the Texans. My beloved Texans.
Yeah, Texans they're one of the sweethearts of the offseason. I think, do I have to do it? I want to be happy about CJ Stroud. And I think looking back at CJ Stroud now, we've put him in a class of quarterbacks because of his rookie season that I don't think he's quite in yet. Mm-hmm. He has the ability to make those level throws. We've seen it last year. And he was amazing for a rookie in a situation that we thought was doomed. If you remember, we all thought that them trading so that they could get the Will Anderson pick was a mistake because they're taking themselves out of the chance to get Caleb, because there's no way CJ Stroud is going to come in here and solve this. Then they're in the damn playoffs winning a playoff game.
We also thought that the trade was so bad they were giving Arizona the chance to get Harrison and Caleb. We thought they're like, they'll trade Kyler, get more first round picks. Like Arizona's going to get both of them.
Right. And so the situation was not as bad as we had thought. D'Amico, great coach.
Unbelievable.
The defense got better, and it's going to be even better this year than it was last year. They went and got my man Jeff Okudah, but apparently he's not playing well. Jeff Okudah scarred me, man. I love Jeff Okudah.
This
so
is like
much.
Hurts your heart.
It's one of the biggest draft misses that I've had. I've never been surer about a player than when I watched Jeff Okudah get his hands on all them Clemson receivers, and I watched all his tape. I was like, this guy's going to be great. He hasn't been good. And so he's been bad in his time.
Towards Achilles.
Yeah, right. The fans aren't happy. I was reading that earlier today. Fans are mad because they moved on from Desmond King and they kept Jeff Okudah. But anyway.
Stingley.
Yeah. Stingley's awesome.
Yeah.
I was right about that one. Anyway, this got really personal, but it wasn't supposed to be. It's just Jeff Okudah broke my heart. But anyway, CJ Stroud. The Stroud issue, what I was saying is I think there's a chance that he repeats what he did last year, and that's not going to be good enough to be a championship team. And I think the expectation is that he gets better, but he may not. I think that's the biggest question mark for them, is the pressure that's going to be on him to take a step forward, because he's going to have to.
I think we should also note that Jeff Okudah started his career playing for Matt Patricia. So you really should.
I was right
for that.
I was right. And Matt Patricia ruined Jeff Okudah. Thank you for that.
I like yours. I mean, I know CJ Stroud was 15 in QBR last year, and it felt like he was higher because he made every single big-time throw when it was needed. My Achilles heel is, what if there's a one-man wrecking crew and Steph Diggs just comes in and just destroys the vibes?
I mean, that's kind of ridiculous.
He'll probably be just very good. He's going to be excellent.
So I'm willing to go down this path with you. But why I think it's a little ridiculous is because he's new.
Yes.
Yeah, I think if he comes in with a attitude, he gets ostracized.
Yeah.
He's not important enough. And they had success before he got there. I think if he had hypothetically had a attitude in Buffalo, that could affect the team because that team needed some help. He showed up and was that help, which made him a very important member of that Buffalo culture. And that could matter. He's parachuting into a ready-made situation. And if he's got an attitude, everyone's going to look at him like, who are you? Chill out.
I mean, there's a chance that he's going to be the number 3 receiver on the team, and him being happy with that is going to take. I mean, it probably won't. He'll probably be the number 1 or number 2 receiver, but there's a chance, and he needs to find a way to be happy with that because last year, obviously, there was a lot of damage done to the situation in Buffalo, but he didn't appear to be happy when the season turned around because that's when his numbers fell off.
Yeah, but I guess if this show is about what holds back a player, then we have this conversation. I don't think, as much as I like Steph Diggs as a receiver,
he's not gonna hold.
I don't think that if Steph Diggs has a bad attitude, it's going to derail the team. If he ends up being the number 3 receiver, that means the rest of those guys are healthy and playing well, and they'll be fine. Yeah, I don't think that him not playing well hurts his team. And we saw the Bills. When he kind of disappeared, they still were winning games.
Yeah.
All right, who's next?
All right, let's go to the NFC. So we did the Super Bowl representative. Let's go to the conference championship opponent, the Lions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Lions, I love the Lions offensive line. And I called the Lions an unserious outfit last year multiple times because their pass rush was an unserious outfit and their cornerbacks were not very good. They've addressed the cornerback issue, not so much about the pass rush. So who'd they go get? Oh, they got Terrion Arnold in the draft, and they got Carlton Davis.
They crushed the draft.
Yeah. They crushed the draft, as they have been doing, and they got Carlton Davis as the corners. Those are the big question marks for me. That throws their season off. If their pass rush continues to be ineffective and none of these corners pan out, which means they won't be able to blitz or be aggressive in any way to create a pass rush, that derails their season. I actually, surprisingly, I guess, it's not surprising to me, but like generally surprisingly, I think most people go to Jared Goff as being an issue. I don't have any concern about Jared Goff. In this system, with this offensive line, with these weapons, they might even get better if Jameson Williams turns into the player that I thought he was coming out with.
Pre-ACL injury,
Yeah, and post-gambling baloney. I think their offense is going to be fine. I'm not concerned about that side of the ball nearly as much as I'm concerned about their defense not improving at all because they have to get better.
I mean, I love this team. That's the only thing I see. I'm with you. It's just like, I mean, they were so close to being the 49ers and being the Super Bowl representative, and they played so hard. Yeah, I mean, look, we've talked about, I have no concerns about their offense, and your Jameson Williams point, if he explodes, like, that takes some of the concerns you have about someone like Amon-Ra being a true X who plays 50% of his slot, snaps the X, 50% in the slot. Well, if you have Jameson Williams being the fastest man alive, that helps. Yeah,
that was my issue with Amon-Ra, is getting a bunch of money as that position. Is like he mixes it up in there in the slot a lot, which doesn't put as much pressure on the defense as a wide guy would.
He's almost exactly 50-50 slot outside. He's a really interesting player. Packers. Everyone's favorite team in the offseason, sort of like the Texans of the NFC.
I mean, the Packers are fun. I think that their quarterback and Jordan Love is going to be great. I think the offense is nothing to worry about. Again, we're on a defense issue. Their defense wasn't good last year, and they went and got Jeff Hafley.
Jeff Hafley.
I don't remember. Can't even pronounce his name.
The BC coach.
He's the BC coach he's their defensive coordinator. He's supposed to fix this bad defense, and he doesn't really have a track record that supports his ability to run good defenses.
Definitely a concern.
Yeah.
Very much a concern. Any concern about Jordan Love only having been good for half a season?
No. I mean,
he's sort of market corrected or taken all of CJ. He took all of CJ Stroud's stuff this offseason.
He did. Going into offseason, CJ Stroud was a young guy we all loved.
He came for his stuff.
And then we went back and watched all the stuff and saw that Jordan Love was consistently making those plays that were wild plays. Like Jordan Love was making the type of top tier elite quarterback plays relatively consistently that you want out of a guy who's going to make sure that your offense is consistently good. And I think him and LaFleur are on the same page. I'm not very concerned about what they're going to do offensively. The question is, can their defense get better despite getting a coach that no one believes, or you and I at least don't believe, that Jeff Hafley from BC is the answer?
I mean, they have a lot of first-round picks on that defense of guys of players that we like. And,
but
like, BC, look.
Any Packers fans know that this has been the story for the Packers for, it feels like, the last 10 years. It's like they have individual good players, but they never actually put together an actual good defense.
I'm not going to be a Jeff Hafley stan, but I will say he was likely at a talent deficit when his defenses sucked in college.
Okay, whatever. Well,
scheme it up.
That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, so your argument for him would be that they were among the worst defenses in all of college football. So they were actually talent-wise worse than that. And he schemed them up to being at the bottom of all of college football.
That's right.
Okay. Good one. Next team.
I did, for the record, that's not my take.
No,
I was raising the idea.
I mean, it's a fair thing to raise because I didn't watch the BC tape. No. I can't tell you whether it was a bunch of guys making mistakes or too slow to pull things off. All I know is the numbers say he ain't good.
I'm just telling you, Luke Kuechly wasn't on that defense.
How long did it take you to think of a great BC defensive player?
Not that long.
Oh, okay.
It was the first one that came to mind.
Name another?
Yeah, Raji, the defensive tackle for the. Remember, he did the belly roll for the Packers.
Same team. Packers.
I mean, you think
Eagles.
you think of Deuce. You think of Doug Flutie when you think of BC.
BJ Raji.
Yeah.
No, I think of Will Blackman.
Really?
Yeah.
Over Doug Flutie.
Yep.
He's a big wine guy.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I think of Will Blackman because I see him on the internet all the time.
All right, last one in the NFC. The Eagles. Your beloved Eagles.
I do love the Eagles. They're so talented. We haven't made official Super Bowl picks. Mm-hmm. Doing this exercise, probably a month ago, I was like, Eagles are back.
Yeah.
This exercise has forced me to accept that they got about 5 Achilles, and I'm concerned about a bunch of them. So the offensive line is not a concern. Jalen Hurts, I hate to say it, it's a bit concerning for me. Mm-hmm. Jalen Hurts put together one incredible season. Mm-hmm. Some okay seasons that built to that one incredible season. Last year was back to okay. The tough thing about projecting him to be great again is I'm not sure that he can replicate those things. So maybe it was health that slowed him down. Maybe it was losing a coach that were the issues. Maybe a bunch of other things. But I don't feel as confident about Jalen Hurts returning to MVP level as I do about all the other quarterbacks who are in his class.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, outstanding thing that has me concerned. The other stuff is the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
And this team, I'm not concerned about the offensive line. I'm not concerned about their weapons. They added Saquon. They got the receivers. That's going to be great. The defense was built on having a dominant defensive line.
Yes.
And last year they dealt with some injuries, but their defensive line wasn't dominant. And they had injuries in the back end, and their linebackers were getting exposed. The issue with that defense may have been them being coached by Matt Patricia, which is fine. The assumption is they switched to Vic Fangio, which we all agree is an upgrade.
Yes.
We think. Like, Vic Fangio is hugely respected coach, but they were, and it could have been injuries, they weren't good in Miami last year, which is where he was last year. So they did get Quinyon Mitchell in the draft and our man Cooper DeJean in the draft.
Athletes. Yeah. 2 of them.
2 athletes. No gym rats. Pure athletes.
Pure.
Which I do think helps
I
do think that it helps their defense a great deal, but I'm not sure that they're going to be as dominant up front as they have been in the past. They lost a little bit of depth there, and I think they're more likely to be that than not, but that does concern me.
Yeah. I mean, we got half a good
I haven't even gotten to I haven't even gotten to the Sirianni stuff too, which is probably the biggest scary part.
Oh, you don't think it's a good thing that Sirianni and Hurts hate each other?
It's a bad thing. It's a bad thing. It's a bad thing when Sirianni and Hurts hate each other, and it seems like the person who is immature in that situation is the head damn coach.
Yes.
Like, I always think back to when they were in that Super Bowl and Nick Sirianni was on the sideline, like having foolish antics, and Jalen Hurts is like,
literally held his hand down.
Hey, calm it down, sir. We're trying to win a damn Super Bowl here. But yeah, the Sirianni Hurts issues, and Sirianni's job was almost lost.
Yeah.
This offseason is on the line, so it doesn't seem that team has a ton of faith in them, that organization or that team. So that's a concerning part.
Snap judgment before we go Super Bowl picks.
All right. You go first while I think about it. Or Lions.
I'm picking the Lions also.
You're picking Lions also? Yeah. All right.
We're both picking Lions. That's
I don't know. Okay. I think Lions because of my love affair with offensive linemen. That offensive line is great. AFC side, got to go Chiefs.
If you're going to take the Chiefs, I'm taking the Texans.
So why if I took the Lions?
We couldn't have the same on both sides.
Okay. All right. Well, I feel like I need to change my NFC team now. I'll think about it.
I can be the 49ers if you want.
Nah.
We can each have one chalk one. You can have the Chiefs, and I'll take the 49ers.
That's all right.
All right, I got Texans 49ers.
All right, I got Lions Chiefs Super Bowl in New Orleans.
I can't wait.
I don't know who's going to win the game, but I know me and you are going to have a good time.
We're going to win the game.
So much fun. All right, Charlie. Thank you for doing this. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks to all the great producers. Cortez is a coward. Can't forget that. I love you, Podville. We out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.